and welcome to another Bottle episode. If you're feeling a bit of deja vu right now, don't worry, I have done a video on FURSUIT Handling before, but that was 3 whole years ago for Bottle episode 13. We're now up to Bottle episode 96. I like to think that my video making abilities have improved like tenfold since then, so I think it's due for a wee bit of a redo. So let's jump right on in. What is a FURSUIT handler? Also called FURSUIT spotters or FURSUIT minders, handlers are people that aren't suiting and have been assigned or volunteered to look after one or more fursuiters, usually in the case of public fursuiting. This is because when you wear a fursuit, it greatly diminishes your senses. You can't hear as well, you can't feel as much, and you have got no peripheral vision. Like, I'm gonna put my hands next to my head here and then slowly move them in, because at the moment I can't see them. So, a bit more, still can't see them, still can't see them. There, about there is where I can sort of just see my paw pads. Or we do the below one as well, still can't see, still can't see, still can't see, oh, about there. So anything that's below here or behind here, I can't see that. Or like cup your hands around your eyes. Haha, I said it right this time. Cup your eyes around your hands. Like little pretend binoculars, and that's pretty much what FURSUIT vision is like. And half that if it's tear ducted vision like you see in most realistic fursuits. This can make it actually quite dangerous to go fursuiting in public places without someone to look out for you. The last thing you want is to be prancing around a public park and suddenly you trip on a tree root that you didn't see, you hurt your back super badly, and nobody's there to help you. Or be fursuiting on the beach when heat stroke strikes you out of nowhere and you need your bottle of water, but it's a 5-minute walk away in your car. So today, I'm going to be giving you all the tips and tricks to become the most epic FURSUIT handler that your group of furries has ever seen. While I'd always rather be the fursuiter, I do enjoy handling as well, because knowing that you've made someone else's fursuiting experience an amazing and easy one is rewarding in itself. Oh, and before I go into that, let me just quickly answer a question that I do see in the comments a lot. As a fursuiter, where do you get a handler? You find a friend and you ask them very, very, very nicely. Handlers do what they do on a voluntary basis, so always be polite by asking them nicely and thanking them. Especially if they're a handler that does all the things that I'm about to talk about and are like legendary level. You treasure them dearly and maybe even buy them some lunch as a thank you. So, as a handler, you can be a handler for multiple fursuiters at once, but I wouldn't recommend being responsible for more than 4, especially if you're new at it. Firstly, you'll want to get your bag ready before you go. Well, this really is up to you. Like, most fursuiters should bring their own supplies, but this is if you want to go that extra mile. Water bottles! You can get whole slabs of disposable water bottles, so just chuck a couple in your backpack. And of course, make sure to recycle the bottles afterwards. Straws! Not all fursuiters can fit an entire water bottle in their mouth, so straws are very handy to have. First aid brush, always good to have an extra, especially if someone forgot to bring theirs. A first aid kit. You can find these at most pharmacies, and even if you're not like actually first aid certified, having one is more valuable than you know. And some extra space. Fursuiters will most likely want to store like their phone and their wallet with you, so make sure you got some extra space for that. At the meet itself, you'll definitely want to talk to your fursuiters beforehand if you're not already like super duper familiar with them. Discuss things like medical conditions that you should be aware of, hand signals if that's what you guys like to use, and any other particular needs. Next, you'll want to assess the area and make some mental notes on potential hazards that are below the waist height that your fursuiter could run into or trip over. For example, tree roots, steps, gutters, bollards. Those guys are especially the worst because they sit perfectly at crotch height. I have seen many a strong people be defeated by those things. Potholes, rabbit holes, puddles, riverbanks, cracked pathways, small fences, and roaming children. Experienced fursuiters will usually look down and then ahead of them before actually proceeding forward so they can spot any hazards, but they still might miss some things. So if you guys go on like a fursuit walk, you'll want to walk ahead of your fursuiters first, and then as they approach any hazards, you can warn them. On top of physical hazards, you also need to make sure that your fursuiters are safe from people hazards. Starting with children. You really want to avoid fursuiting in places that have swarms of children, because that is exactly what they're going to do. They are going to swarm on your poor fursuiters. Take your suitors off to the side somewhere so those who want to come and say hello can do so. Even when there aren't a lot of kids around, you still want to watch and make sure that they're not harassing your suitor and potentially damaging their suit. Such as the infamous tail pulling. I swear, there is just something in kids' minds that when they see tail, something goes, aha, I must pull that. Being behind a fursuiter in general is quite dangerous because you are completely out of their vision, so always make sure that nobody is approaching your fursuiter from behind. Go and direct them to the front. But yeah, other things like jumping up on your fursuiter, pulling their arms, even verbal harassment, you need to step in and stop that from happening. First, ask them nicely. If they don't stop then, you can ask them firmly, and if they're still going, you guys need to move away and suit somewhere else. Do not ever use physical force. Do not touch anybody. That is a whole can of worms of trouble. You guys just need to go. Kids aren't the only ones who could be causing issues though. Adults can too. Now this is extremely rare and entirely dependent on when and where you're fursuiting. Do not fursuit at a time and place where people will be drinking. I really can't stress that enough. Anytime there has been an issue with fursuiters and people, the vast majority of the time, the people were drinking. Even during the day, you need to be wary. People do day drink, especially if it's a holiday. Do not let your fursuiters interact with them or even go near them. If you see them heading that way, you need to go full border collie mode and herd them in the other direction. I'm speaking from experience here. I've seen people get punched in the face, heads ripped off. Even I had a drunk guy jump on me from behind in broad daylight at a park. Not fun. Do not recommend. 0 out of 10 on rice. If your suitors still somehow find themselves being harassed by someone, you need to step in and de-escalate the situation. Just like the case with children. Ask nicely, ask firmly, leave. If they follow you, you may need to either contact authorities or get your suitors to take their heads off. Sometimes when people can't see your face, there's this empathy barrier, and they think it's okay to do and say things to you that they wouldn't otherwise. So having your suitors take their heads off can pop that bubble and help bring the situation down. Again, this is very rare, so don't stress too much, especially if you've done all the proper precautions beforehand, but it's always good to know what to do just in case. Another rare event that is good to be prepared for is an unwell fursuiter. The moment someone isn't feeling well, they need to get out of suit. Screw the magic, safety first. Take their head off, lead them to somewhere where they can get changed, and make sure they are drinking plenty of water. If your fursuiter faints, call an ambulance. While you wait for the paramedics to arrive, try and get as much of their fursuit off them as you can. And if you're not first aid certified, see if anyone else in the group is. They'll know what to do from there. One more rare situation that I really want to touch on is fursuiters who misbehave. If your fursuiter is reckless or just doesn't care, your job just got a lot harder. Things like just running across roads without looking, going up and interacting with people who clearly just want to be left alone, going inside shops and establishments that they shouldn't be, climbing on things that they shouldn't be, or just being too rough with people and other fursuiters. Most fursuiters will know better than that, and it is certainly not your responsibility for the behavior of others, but if it is happening, it's a recipe for disaster. If you can, please ask your fursuiter to stop doing what they're doing. If they still continue to do it even after being asked multiple times, you may need to see about getting them banned from the meet that you're at. Otherwise, they might get themselves seriously injured, they could get someone else seriously injured, or annoy the general public to the point they put in a formal complaint, getting your entire meet banned or even fined for being a public nuisance. With all that out of the way, of course, don't forget to have fun! And be prepared to talk on your fursuiter's behalf, because you're probably going to get all kinds of people coming up to you being like, what on earth is all this? And I think that just about covers everything fursuit handling. I know I talked about some pretty scary situations, but please don't let that put you off. They are very rare and completely avoidable if the meet has been planned properly. I do have a video on public fursuiting and how to go about it and whatnot, but I think that one's due for a bit of a remake as well. If you have been a fursuit handler before, please do leave me a comment below. Let me know if you have any tips or tricks that I didn't talk about. Stay safe, stay awesome, I'll see you on Twitch this weekend, and if not, in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good one. Bye! This month's anniversary shoutouts go to Lightning Runner and Beagle and Red, who have been here for 3 years. Thank you guys so much. Then for 2 years, we've got Morgan, Jinxie, Brian Thompson, and Moonage Daydream. And 1 year, we've got Shadowpaw, Tidepod, and Ryder. Thank you guys so much for the incredible support.